Let me ask you something uncomfortable. If the market dropped 30% tomorrow, if your savings were suddenly cut in half, if headlines screamed crisis for weeks, would your strategy survive? Or would your emotions take control? Before we go deeper, if you're here to understand how money actually works, not the motivational fantasy version, not the get-rich-fast version, subscribe to the channel and like this video. Because here we don't sell shortcuts, we break down systems. And today, we're going to talk about the system most people don't even know they're trapped in. The first illusion about wealth. Most people think wealth is built through intelligence. Better analysis, better timing, better predictions. But after years of watching markets through crashes, bubbles, political shifts, rate hikes, stimulus cycles, I can tell you something very clearly. Wealth flows to emotional control, not to intelligence. I've seen incredibly smart people lose fortunes because they couldn't tolerate uncertainty. And I've seen average investors quietly accumulate serious capital because they didn't overreact. Money is not primarily mathematical, it's behavioral. 2008 changed the way I look at everything. During the financial crisis, I observed something that permanently shifted my perspective. Two investors, same data, same falling market, same economic reports. One panicked and liquidated near the bottom. The other gradually accumulated positions in strong companies. Fast forward 5 years. Their financial realities were completely different. It wasn't access, it wasn't IQ, it was reaction under pressure. That's when I understood markets don't reward knowledge. They reward stability under stress. The emotional timing trap. There's a repeating pattern I see constantly. People enter markets when they feel safe, when headlines are positive, when growth feels stable, when everyone around them is making money. It feels logical. But comfort is usually expensive. Optimism is already priced into the market. Then volatility appears. News turns negative. Suddenly, those same people sell. Not because fundamentals collapsed overnight, but because emotionally it feels unsafe. They buy confidence. They sell fear. And that loop silently erodes long-term wealth. The confidence illusion. Rising markets create artificial intelligence. When assets go up, people feel smarter. They increase position size. They add leverage. They take concentrated bets. But upward momentum hides risk. It creates the illusion of control. Then conditions change. And what looked like strategy reveals itself as exposure. The market didn't betray them. It exposed their structure. Wealthy think in reverse. When I've spoken to individuals with significant capital, their thinking is different. They don't start with, how much can I make? They start with, what could permanently damage me? That shift is powerful. They stress test downside. They assume they can be wrong. They build resilience first, returns second. Because once you protect survival, compounding can work. Without survival, compounding stops. Leverage. The silent destroyer shit is seductive. When markets rise, leverage feels efficient. It magnifies gains. It accelerates progress. But leverage also magnifies fragility. A small market correction becomes devastating. A temporary downturn becomes permanent capital destruction. The problem with leverage isn't that it exists. It's that most people use it without imagining worst-case scenarios. Markets don't punish mistakes. They punish overconfidence combined with exposure. Scarcity thinking, another pattern I see constantly, is urgency-driven behavior. I'm behind. I missed the last opportunity. I need to move now. Scarcity thinking leads to chasing. Chasing leads to instability. Instability interrupts compounding. Wealth is rarely built through intensity. It's built through patience, strategic restraint, consistency over excitement. The more desperate someone feels about money, the less stable their decisions become. And instability is the enemy of long-term growth. Compounding is emotional endurance. People misunderstand compounding. They think it's about high returns. But compounding is mostly about not interrupting the process. Switching strategy constantly resets growth. Jumping between trends disrupts structure. Selling during drawdowns halts recovery. Compounding requires emotional endurance. And endurance is rare in a world built on instant feedback. The noise problem: we live in permanent financial stimulation. Breaking news every hour. Recession warnings. Political drama. Market predictions. Most people believe they need more information. They don't. They need less noise. Overexposure to information creates urgency. Urgency creates impulsive decisions. The ability to filter noise is a competitive advantage. Calm is an edge. Silence is an edge. Detachment is an edge. The ego barrier. Here's something most people never admit. When they win financially, they credit skill. When they lose, they blame the economy. That protects ego, but it prevents growth. If you never analyze your mistakes honestly, you repeat them. Markets don't care about self-image. They care about structure. If your system is fragile, the market will find the weakness. Volatility is not risk. This is important. Volatility feels like risk, but volatility is movement. True risk is permanent loss. True risk is overexposure. True risk is not understanding your own downside. Markets move up and down. That's normal. But permanent damage usually comes from poor structure, not price movement. The real divider. If you want to understand why some people steadily accumulate wealth while others restart every few years, ask this: how do they behave during uncertainty? When markets fall, do they panic? Do they double down recklessly? Or do they reduce exposure methodically and reassess? Calm capital absorbs emotional capital. That transfer happens quietly, but over time, it becomes visible. Wealth is transferred during instability. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Wealth is rarely created during euphoria. It's transferred during fear. When others liquidate emotionally, disciplined investors reposition. When others chase aggressively, disciplined investors wait. Markets don't destroy money. They redistribute it. And most people don't even realize they're participating in that redistribution. Final reflection. This channel is about fast money. It's about understanding how financial systems actually operate beneath the surface. You cannot control global shocks. You cannot eliminate volatility. You cannot predict every crisis. But you can control your leverage, your exposure, your risk tolerance, your reaction speed. And the biggest financial advantage isn't secret information. It's psychological stability. When headlines scream urgency, when markets feel chaotic, when fear spreads quickly, ask yourself, are you reacting or are you thinking? Because over years, not days, that difference becomes everything.